everyone. I am Linda Wellbrock, the CEO and founder of Leading Women Entrepreneurs and the New Jersey Force for Change Awards during COVID. And we have two very special 2020 honorees with us here today who were both on the front lines, helping us through this unprecedented time. We have Dr. Orli Langer of Perinatal Associates and her husband, Dr. Michael Most of Elite Surgical in Chester. And they are our Power Couple honorees this year. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, and thank you. First, we're also grateful for the work that you did. I can't wait to share your story with our viewers. So let's start with Orli. Tell us about the services that you provide in your practice.
So Perinatal Associates focuses on maternal fetal medicine or perinatology, which is high-risk pregnancy. So that means if mom has a medical issue or the fetus has a medical issue or the pregnancy is high risk for any reason, OBGYNs send the patients to us so that we could co-manage them throughout the difficult pregnancy.
Yeah, and a difficult pregnancy during a difficult time in history must have been very nerve-wracking for all of these pregnant mothers. So thank you for your work there. And Dr. Michael Most, let's talk about what your services are that you provide at Elite Surgical Centers.
So I'm a general surgeon, and I'm also trained as a head and neck surgeon. I do a lot of elective head and neck surgery as well as acute care general surgery.
Very important work. And locally here in Chester, we're so happy to have both of your resources out in this area because I know, not having to go all the way into New York is something special for people who live out here in New Jersey. So thank you for that. Let's shift over to how both of your practices changed during this pandemic. And Orli, I want to start with you.
Okay, so really there were a couple of really major changes in the practice. One of them is obvious with protection and more usage of the Lysol and the masks and the shields. We actually put up plexiglass sheets between our sonographer and the patient to, again, increase the safety. We put plexiglass up between the patients when they're coming in to check in and the front desk staff. And we're taking temperatures. It's all of the regular precautions, but a lot of the precautions that people are doing now, once things are beginning to open up, we have been doing since March to prevent any spread of disease. The second thing that has changed a lot in this very difficult pandemic time is that pregnant women, like you said, they're scared, they're nervous, especially when there's high risk and something wrong with their pregnancy, and they're afraid to go to the hospital. So a lot of the maternal fetal medicine offices in New Jersey are hospital-based, which means either the doctors work through the hospital or the offices are through the hospital. And mine is a self-standing, boutique-y maternal fetal medicine practice that's not part of the hospital. So because of all the patients' difficulties and comfort level, we've increased our staff and we've also increased the patient load quite a bit. And I'm happy to help out more women during these difficult times, women that otherwise would have to go to the hospital or wait while offices are closed to get perinatal care.
Oh, I can only imagine how grateful they were. I have 13-year-old twins, so I was a high-risk mom or pregnant woman at one time. So not being in the middle of a pandemic, it was nerve-wracking enough. I think I would have loved to go into a hospital back then. So what a great resource. And Michael, let's shift to you. How did your practice shift? And tell us about some of the things that you were involved in during this pandemic.
Sure. Elective surgery, as you know, was shut down sometime in March. So pretty much everybody who had an elective surgical practice basically went on forced vacation. And even the emergencies started to become less and less frequent, I assume because people were just scared to come to the emergency room. So I got sort of prepared to take a few weeks vacation when I got a call from a friend of mine who's one of the surgical critical care specialists at Morristown. He asked me if I'd be willing to come serve as a critical care specialist in the ICU. And I did a lot of that in residency and during my training, and I still have a pretty significant interest in it. So I was willing to come and help out, more so because I would have gone stir crazy at home than anything else. So I basically showed up a couple of days, and before I knew it, we had opened so many intensive care units in the hospital that I had just simply been assigned one. So I kind of dropped into this role as an ICU doctor, which I did for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Almost 3 months.
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah.
So I just finished that up end of June.
I mean, that's incredible to really just volunteer to be a part of the front lines, especially during that time frame in March when I think everybody was just at that. No one knew what the rules were. Everything was changing minute by minute. So I know that your parents and you have a beautiful family, and you really stepped into a role that was to try and help this great state. So we thank you for that. And in that role, it must have brought up a whole nother just set of concerns. And I know malpractice was something that you addressed. And I'd love for you to tell me about the initiative that you were a part of.
Well, the first thing I did was call my carrier before I went in, because I needed to make sure that I was going to be covered for liability if I start performing outside my typical role. And I spoke to the CEO of our company, the company that insures me, and he said, absolutely not. You are not insured for doing that kind of work. And in fact, he informed me that he actually had been trying to get our governor to do what the governor of New York had just recently done prior to that, which was grant immunity. So he put me in touch with a reporter from the Star Ledger. I had a long discussion with her. She wrote a report, and I really didn't do a whole lot. All I did was answer a few questions over the telephone, and an article was written. And then literally a day or two later, the governor announced he was granting us immunity. And the initial immunity deal was not exactly what we wanted. So the CEO put me in touch with the reporter again, and I told him exactly why I didn't think that was enough. And then a day later, he revised it and basically granted us immunity from liability with respect to physicians working outside the normal specialty during COVID.
Well, that was incredibly impactful and important. And I actually read about the article myself and sent it to Orli. Said, "Is this your husband? Because he's the governor. I just want you to know." So I was so impressed and so honored that I knew both of you. Again, our Power Couple honorees, and anybody listening to this can surely see that you have really you've been making a difference all this time, but especially during this difficult time in history. So thank you for all of your work. Let's shift into something a little lighter, which the pandemic has thrust all of us into isolation. And many people have picked up some new hobbies because of that. And I want to ask you, have either of you picked up any new hobbies?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not really a new hobby. It's you know, I like to woodwork. So I do a lot of my own woodworking. I've made guitars in the past, and I have a lot of scrap wood in the basement. And as you probably know, the lumber yards were all closed. So I started collecting scrap wood that I found around the basement, cutting them, putting them together, and I started making cutting boards and sort of like cheese platter boards. And I started making them as gifts because we couldn't go out and buy our family gifts for their anniversaries and their birthdays. So I started making these cutting boards, and we were sending them to our family members as gifts.
Brilliant. And, everybody needs a cutting board. Everybody needs a cheese platter too. So if you have any ones, let me know.
And they're beautiful. They're really beautiful. They have 2 different color woods, and they have zigzags, and they have they're really beautiful.
Okay, well, we're going to have to get a picture of one of those.
Absolutely.
Putting together this montage of all of the creative ways that our honorees have spent the last 3 months.
Yes.
So I don't know, Orli, if you're a part of the woodwork or if something special has popped up for you.
So definitely not woodwork. because I think I'm too afraid I'll cut off a finger if I use it would work. But what I have done in the past is mosaics, and I just love it. It's so cathartic and it's so calming to just sit in the craft room and just do the mosaics. And I made one really big one, like 24 by 36, something huge for my office, a mosaic of a pregnant woman with the fetus inside the uterus. I wish I had a picture to show you. So, and it was years ago, and everyone who comes to my office says, "Oh, who made it?" And I'm like, me. You know, so
I have one in my office also.
Yeah. So over the pandemic, I went back to doing that, and I made a second pregnant woman to hang in our Chester office because we had one hanging in the Passaic office. I figured we need another one hanging in Chester, so I did that, and I made a couple more.
I definitely want to see pictures of that.
Yes,
absolutely,
I'll send them to you.
Gorgeous. And until from now until November 2nd, we just can't wait to honor you that day as Force for Change honorees. It's been incredible to speak with you, and we're so thrilled to have you in this year's class. So congratulations again.
Thank you so much.